6 in the morning. No alarm. No motivation video. No countdown clip playing in the background telling you to get up. Just a decision, made the night before, that today would not be wasted. That is where it starts. Not with energy. Not with inspiration. With a decision made in advance, so that when the moment comes, there is nothing left to decide. Most people lose the day before they even open their eyes. You are about to learn why that happens, and how to make sure it stops happening to you. Here is a version of you that wakes up already behind. Behind on sleep, behind on plans, behind on the promises made last night in a moment of clarity that has since evaporated. You know this feeling. The phone reaches for your hand before your feet reach the floor. 10 minutes disappear. Then 20. The day has not even started, and already something has been given away for free. This is not a story about willpower. Willpower is a myth sold to people who have never built a system. This is a story about structure, about what happens in the first 60 minutes of a day, and why that hour decides more than the other 23 combined. Champions are not made in competition. They are revealed there. The making happens earlier, in rooms with no audience, at hours no one is watching, in choices no one will ever post about. You are going to walk through what that hour actually looks like. Not the version they show in highlight reels. The real one is quiet, repetitive, and unglamorous enough that most people quit before they ever taste what it builds. The first thing that separates a disciplined morning from a wasted one is not the hour on the clock. It is the absence of negotiation. Picture two men waking at the same time, in the same kind of room, with the same tired body. One asks himself a question: should I get up now, or in 10 minutes? The other does not ask anything. He already answered that question the night before, and this morning is simply the execution of yesterday's decision. The first man will lose. Not because he is weaker. Because he opened a negotiation with his own comfort, and comfort always argues well at 6 in the morning. This is the quiet trap almost nobody names. You think the fight is against laziness. It is actually against your own internal debate team, the one that wakes up fully rested and ready to argue you out of everything you promised. A person who has trained himself to remove the negotiation does not feel stronger in the moment. He simply has fewer decisions to make. And fewer decisions, at the hardest hour of the day, is the entire advantage. Consider a woman who spent years hitting snooze without fail, convinced she was simply not a morning person. Nothing changed until she stopped deciding in the morning and started deciding the night before, laying out clothes, setting one single non-negotiable first action, removing every possible fork in the road. Within weeks, the mornings that used to feel like a battle simply became a sequence. Not easy. Just decided. That is the first shift. Discipline is not fought for at sunrise. It is installed the night before, so that sunrise only has to follow instructions. The second truth is harder to accept, because it strips away the comfort of blaming the outside world. Nobody is coming to hand you a better morning. No circumstance is going to rearrange itself so that discipline becomes convenient. The room will still be cold. The bed will still be warm. The reasons to stay under the blanket will always outnumber the reasons to leave it. This is not a flaw in your life. It is the condition every disciplined person has operated inside of. The difference is not that their reasons to quit are fewer. It is that they stopped waiting for the reasons to feel compelling before acting on them. Think of a runner training before dawn for a race that is still 4 months away. There is no crowd cheering him down that dark street. No proof yet that any of it works. Only cold air, tired legs, and a decision made long before his body had a vote in the matter. He does not run because it feels good. He runs because the version of himself waiting at the finish line already made the deal, and he refuses to let a tired morning renegotiate it on his behalf. This is the mindset shift buried inside every strong morning: stop waiting to feel ready. Readiness is not a prerequisite for action. It is usually the result of it. You do not think your way into a disciplined morning. You move your way into one, and the clarity arrives after, not before. There is a third layer to this, one that most people overlook because it does not sound dramatic enough to make a highlight reel. It is the size of the first action. Nobody builds a disciplined morning by attempting something enormous the second their eyes open. That approach collapses under its own weight within a week. What actually works is almost embarrassingly small, a single, specific, physical action that takes less than 2 minutes, done the same way, every single day, until the body stops asking permission. Sitting up. Standing. Drinking a glass of water before the phone is touched. Making the bed before a single thought is allowed to argue against it. These are not the discipline itself. They are the ignition switch for it. Picture a man who spent years failing at waking up early as a broad, vague goal, and finally succeeded the moment he shrank the target down to one instruction: feet on the floor within 5 seconds of the alarm. Nothing else was required of him in that instant. Not a workout. Not a plan for the whole day. Just 5 seconds, and floor, and feet. That tiny rule did something the big vague goal never could. It removed the size of the mountain from the very first step. And once the first step is taken, momentum does something willpower never manages to do on its own: it carries you. This is why the morning of a disciplined person often looks unremarkable from the outside. There is no dramatic surge of motivation. There is only one small action, executed without negotiation, that quietly drags the next hour into motion behind it. The fourth piece is silence, and this one tends to surprise people the most. A disciplined morning is not loud. It is not filled with noise designed to hype you into motion. The moment you reach for external noise to manufacture energy you do not actually have, you have already revealed that the foundation underneath you is thin. There is a specific kind of quiet that belongs to people who have done this long enough to trust it. No scrolling before the mind has had a single original thought of its own. No borrowed urgency from someone else's highlight reel. Just the sound of a kettle, or footsteps, or breath, the sound of a person who does not need to be convinced this morning matters, because he already decided that the night before. Consider a woman preparing for a difficult presentation, who used to spend her mornings consuming other people's success stories for reassurance, and found that it left her more anxious, not less. She replaced 40 minutes of consumption with 10 minutes of preparation in silence, reviewing her own material, in her own voice, with no outside noise competing for the space in her head. She walked into that room steadier than she had ever been, not because the silence gave her extra time, but because it gave her attention back to herself instead of scattering it across everyone else's story. Noise borrowed from other people always has to be borrowed again tomorrow. Discipline built in silence belongs to you permanently. The fifth truth is the one almost nobody wants to hear, because it removes the excuse of a bad morning entirely. Discipline is not about how you feel when you wake up. It never was. If discipline required good feelings to function, it would not be discipline, it would be a mood, and moods are unreliable by definition. The people who sustain a strong morning for years, not days, are not the ones who feel ready every single time. They are the ones who built a version of themselves that acts independently of the feeling in the room. Tired mornings still happen. Doubt still shows up uninvited. The difference is that neither one gets a vote anymore. Picture a man rebuilding his life after a financial collapse that took almost everything he had built over a decade. On the mornings when the weight of that loss sat heaviest on his chest, he did not wait for the weight to lift before getting up. He got up while it was still there, moved through the same small first action he always did, and let the momentum of the morning carry him past a feeling that would have kept a less trained person in bed until noon. This is the quiet power nobody markets, because it does not photograph well. Not the version of you that feels unstoppable. The version of you that moves anyway, on the days it does not feel unstoppable at all. That version is the one still standing 5 years from now. Here is the part you need to sit with, because it will not be repeated in a louder way later. Every single morning you have ever wasted was not stolen from you. It was handed over, one small negotiation at a time, to a version of yourself that did not yet understand what was actually at stake. And every morning you reclaim from here forward will not feel like a victory in the moment. It will feel like nothing. Like a small, unremarkable act of getting up when getting up was not required. Like drinking water before checking a phone. Like 5 seconds between an alarm and your feet on the floor. But stack that unremarkable act across 1,000 mornings, and it stops being small. It becomes the difference between a person who talks about the life they wanted and a person who is quietly, methodically building it while no one is watching. Champions do not start their day with fire. They started with a decision that was already made, executed without asking permission from a feeling that showed up uninvited. The fire comes later. It always comes later. It is never the reason the morning began, it is what the morning eventually produces, one repeated decision at a time. You do not need a better morning tomorrow. You need one honest decision tonight, and the discipline to let that decision speak louder than whatever your body has to say about it when the alarm finally goes off. This is how it actually starts. Not with noise. Not with speeches. With one decision, made the night before, and one small action that refuses to negotiate. Champions are not the ones who feel ready every morning. They are the ones who stopped waiting to feel that way. If this found you at the right moment, let it sit with you before you close the tab. And if you are building that version of yourself, one quiet morning at a time, you are welcome to stay a while longer here.